Hello, I am Peter, and you are a real estate agent, and I know what you want more than anything else in this world. You want those leads, 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 leads. You want those leads, 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 leads. Silly? Yes, but I must say that there are three ways to generate leads as defined in the handbook. There is advertising, prospecting, and then sleeping with a builder. Now, of the three, I recommend prospecting. Why? Because it is the least expensive method, assuming that you have a moral character, as well as it allows you to keep your finger on the pulse of the marketplace. By talking with buyers and sellers on a routine basis, it allows you to know what they're thinking through what they're saying, allowing you to see things that are coming before the broader market does. Not just so, but it gives you options. You know, those problem clients, the ones that you wish you didn't work with, but you're stuck with because you have no other options? Well, you can just refer those out or drop them altogether, especially if you're going to go for those listings. Now, if you're brave enough, I recommend for sale by owner and expired leads because they are of plentiful supply and they are ready to sell right now. Now, I know a lot of agents are afraid because it's as though they think that someone's going to reach their arm through the phone and start smacking you around. But that's simply not the case, especially if you're prepared and you have those specialized tools that are required to help you with the FSBOs and or the expireds, which is why I'm happy to say that I recommend Vulcan 7 leads. They offer not only expired and for sale by owners, but also neighborhood, or also known as circle prospecting leads, which is where you can either draw a circle on a map or you can draw your own customized polygon and it will import directly into your database the names, the phone numbers, and the addresses of all the properties in which you have just encircled. They also have FSBO, which is for rent by owner, and pre-foreclosure and probate leads. Now, of course, you're going to need some tools to help with this. Vulcan 7 doesn't disappoint on that. They've got a fantastic CRM that makes it simple and easy to manage and organize all of your leads with a profile sheet on each one so you don't forget where you left off in your campaign. They've got a dialer, a double dialer actually, if you are so brave to use it, video email, really good phone numbers. Some agents complain that the competitors, their phone numbers are not that great, that they lead to dead ends or wrong numbers. Those that have used Vulcan 7 say, hey, Vulcan 7 is great with the phone numbers. They got training, support, a live calling club, scripts, as well as the ability to find role play partners, and that's great. So you might say, all right, so this is, I'm nervous to even try it. Well, don't worry about that because Vulcan 7 is offering a 30-day challenge, which says that if you do not take a listing in the first 30 days of using their leads, then the next month is on them, on the house, free, gratis. And that's fantastic. Now, of course, you have to qualify for this by having at least 15 conversations times 15 days during that 30 days, as well as attend 4 of their training programs. If you are earnest and wanting to try this, then that should be a breeze for you. No problem at all. So those who really try hard at this and they still are unable, Vulcan 7 is putting their money where their mouth is. Now, I want to point out that you can get these leads through the link that I've provided here at the bottom of the page, which is petersleads.com. And as a special thank you for using that link, then I want to provide with you a free in-depth video on a system that I've created, which will allow you to get a listing appointment on the very first call, the very first time with every FSBO. Now, I have to say that I've used this script hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and it worked every time except for once. And this was a guy who was listed FSBO for 7 or 8 years until he finally passed away, actually. All the agents, local agents in town, knew that this guy was a perennial FSBO, and he just wouldn't let anybody in his house. So I have extensive experience with the FSBOs and expireds, and I am happy to talk to you about it. So if you buy the leads through my link there, petersleads.com, then email me or call me up and I'll have a chat with you. I'll walk you through all this stuff, give you some tips and tricks, as well as I've got that in-depth video that I'll make of use to you. I'll let you have access and you can watch it to your eyes bleed. This is what that tool looks like, by the way. It's called a FSBO mat, and I'm going to go into that in detail here in a second. But before I do, I want to say that if you are ready to attract sellers who want to sell right now, then Vulcan 7 is definitely the way to go. And if you commit, then it will change your business, I guarantee. So sign up today, and thank you for supporting me while supporting yourself. Now, that said, let's take a look at the FSBO mat. Okay, on to the FSBO mat. I've created this sucker as quite thickly laminated, which allows you to write on it with a dry erase pen, and then you can take it off, which is cool because you can add the contact information for that FSBO you're speaking with. And then it's got a bunch of questions that you can ask them while you're on the call. You can draw on it with your favorite dry erase pen. You can even use the colored ones so that you can highlight things, making sure that you go to that one first, or make sure you don't forget to ask that question if you find it to be the most important. And if you do that, you're going to need some of this get her off juice, which is really just rubbing alcohol. Spray it right on there. Use your favorite wipey wipe, and it comes right off just like that. You can clean it off and get ready for your next phone call. Before you do that, though, you can take a photograph of this with your cell phone, so now you have a record of who you spoke to and all of the answers they gave. So this way you can clean it off and go to the next call, and later on you can enter this information into your database, into the profile of that individual if you find that necessary to do so. So let us zoom in a bit, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on some of these things. There's an intro script to say, when they answer the phone, "Hi, this is me. Can I talk to the owner?" They're going to have one of two replies. They're going to ask, "What do you want?" Or they're going to say, "Do you have a buyer?" Now, the majority of real estate agents that I've met in my career will lie to a FSBO right off the bat. Now, I say you should never lie to a FSBO. That's rule number one. If you start the conversation off with a lie, then it just leads to bad places. You're unlikely to get the listing because they don't trust you now. So what a lot of agents will do is say that they have a buyer when they really don't. So they can preview, and then they can get their foot in the door and then spring a listing presentation on that unsuspecting FSBO at the last second. And even if they sit through your presentation, they're actually steaming mad at you at that moment. They're just too polite to kick you out of their kitchen. I've even seen some agents will take another agent with them, pretending that that agent is the buyer. Not good. Because I've read these scripts so many times, hundreds if not thousands and thousands of times, then I've developed a two-part script that goes with this question that they almost always ask, "Do you have a buyer?" In fact, I want them to ask the question, "Do you have a buyer?" so that I can read this script to them. The Worthy Listing Script Part 1, which says, "It would be unprofessional of me to say that I have a buyer before I see your house. However, if your house is worthy of me listing, then it's worth me showing to a buyer." Now, what this is going to prompt them is to say, nearly 100% of the times, "I don't want to list with an agent," or I'm not hiring you. I want them to say this. Here's why: because then it allows me to reiterate myself with the Worthy Listing Script Part 2, which is where you say, "With respect, I didn't ask to list your house. In fact, I haven't even seen it yet. I merely said that if your house meets my criteria for listing, then it will also meet my criteria for showing to a buyer. Is that fair?" And that script, "Is that fair?" is a very important one. You want them to agree with you right here, and they always will. It kind of puts them back on their heels a little bit, and they say, "Oh, this guy is totally different than everyone else who's called me." Then it drops down into this big box, as you see here. And it's got a bunch of these questions that you can ask FSBO, like, how much are you asking? Who lives there now? Is it owner occupied, or is there a tenant there, or is it vacant? And it's got all these little bits here that you can use to give them some tips and pointers. The whole point is that we want to make them feel like, reasonably, that they don't really know what they're doing. That when you list your house for sale by yourself, you are acting as your own real estate agent. And just like he who represents himself in court, they say, has a fool for a client. A lot of times FSBO is that do-it-yourselfer who doesn't really see the pitfalls or the trappings of trying to do it themselves, not knowing what they're really doing. So, for example, if the property is vacant, then if they haven't told their insurance company that it's vacant and something happens like a water leak and 2 or 3 weeks goes by and it makes a whole lot more damage than it had been if you came home at the end of the day from work and noticed it and turned off the pipe, then the insurance company is not going to cover the damage that is that persistent leak. Anything like that. It might be a hole in the roof. It might be a broken window, and more damage occurs because you weren't there to notice it at the end of the day. Instead, it took you 2 or 3 weeks before you noticed. So this is one of those little tips right off the bat that you can give to a FSBO. Almost nobody knows this. That will allow you to be seen as the valuable real estate agent, so that you are positioning yourself as the expert, and they can recognize that. You can ask them, what disclosures are you giving? They always have zero. How do you pre-qualify your buyers? They usually will say, isn't that the buyer's job? And then there's little scripts here that help you to go through. So you want to study this ahead of time. You know, if I was to bring you a cash buyer tomorrow who pays full price, but wants you out in 10 days, will you comply? You'd be surprised how many people say no to that. So this shows the motivation. And so you can speak to those things. Now, there's a bunch more. I'm not going to go into all of them and all the description as to why you should be using this and color in the words with extra scripts. But I will say that you can jump around based upon how the conversation goes with FSBO, as well as sometimes they start to get anxious and you can hear it in their voice and they want off the phone. They don't want to be interrogated, so to speak. In fact, you want this to be like a conversation and not an interrogation, but a lot of them will still want to get off the phone. So when you feel that coming, or once you've exhausted all of these questions, then you want to drop down here and deliver what I call the bottom line script, which says that if I could show you a way to sell your house faster and net you more money, and I do all the work, then would you hire me today? That's the script. In fact, you don't even have to say any of these things. You can just right off the bat jump down to this bottom line script. It works. It's powerful. It helps if you ask the questions above because it positions you as a bit of an expert and they can see that. And then you ask this question. Now, the response is typically going to be something like, just tell me over the phone how you're going to do that. Send me to a website, send me an email, send me a PDF or a slide presentation. And so for that, I've got the see my face script, which says, no, no, no. If you want to see my plan, you're going to have to see my face. You're going to have to sell it like that, and in which time you can book the appointment. Now, on the reverse side of this script, Matt, let me zoom back out a little bit. It has a bunch of objections that FSBO has, commonly a quick little script, and then it pushes them straight into the bottom line script with a little intermediate one in between, and then the appointment setting script. So, for example, agents keep calling me. You could say, well, I can only speak for myself when I say that I want to help. So let's make a plan to get you sold so you can move on with your life. So tell me, which is more important to you, the cost of selling or the amount of money that you put into your pocket? So once again, if I could show you a way to sell your house faster and net you more money, and I do all the work, would you hire me today? Don't be afraid to repeat this script multiple times until they say come out. It works. I know it does. Then if you scroll down a little bit here, you'll see that there are some different notes and bullet points, and these are talking points or campaign points that you can use to attract the FSBO. Even though this script works fantastically well for getting a listing presentation on the very first conversation, that doesn't mean that they're going to list with you at the end of that presentation. In fact, out of all the hundreds of FSBO appointments I've had, only one time did a FSBO list with me on that very first appointment. It typically takes between 4 and 8 weeks. I guess around the 6-week mark is the sweet spot. One of my favorite scripts, by the way, is once they get to the about 6-week mark, is call them up. You know, you're going to be talking to them a couple times per week for all these weeks in a row. A lot of agents will call FSBO, but very few will call twice. And of the ones who call twice, almost zero will call 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 25th, 30th time. That's what's going to make you different, is that each time that you speak with them, they see the commitment that you have, and you keep providing them value with these talking points that you find on this FSBO mat. So there are things like the 3 kinds of FSBO shoppers, and you can talk to them about that, or 6 facts about FSBO, or 10 reasons why FSBO needs an agent. Now, I wouldn't burn through all these in one conversation. I would only pick out one per chat and enlighten them. And that way you've still got plenty more ammo left in the can. There's also a campaign here with a follow-up script, as well as a voicemail script that you can leave, as well as a little bit of prodding. This one that I really like. Today is National Get Off the Fence Day. So which way are you falling? That's the way that that's the script I like to use after about the 6-week mark. And, you'll start to develop a relationship with the FSBO. You'll start to get to know their personality. And so it makes it easier for those scripts to sink in. So here's the deal. Buy your leads, FSBO and expired, or those circle prospecting, the probates, the FRBOs, whatever you like. But especially for those expireds and the FSBOs, go to Peter's Leads, petersleads.com. And not only will you get all the training, the help, the support, the coddling, the stroking of the hair, perhaps the ego a little bit from Vulcan 7, but you also have me to lean on as well. I want you to do well, and I'm here to help. So get the leads through petersleads.com, and then call me or email me, and I'm here to help you. There's no reason why you can't. See ya.